match. Let's get our players to the table. Up first is the reigning Scottish Open champion and a man. He is ranked in the top 100 of the World 9-Ball Pool Tour. Let's hope he's brought the right cue. Please give it up and make some noise for the Tyneside Terror, Gary Wilson. Opponent is the 12-time ranking event champion. It's the magician, Shaun Murphy.
Will the magician do the trick, or will Wilson get the win? One little bit of news about Shaun Murphy. He scratched his left eye with his contact lens about a week ago. It's very sore. Rob Walker was telling me all about this morning. And so that might turn out to be something of a handicap as the match goes on. You can see it there, actually. Quite red. We will see. If these two play their best, I think, Stephen Hendry, we could be in for a very entertaining contest.
Yeah, and I think some very aggressive snooker, because I think both these players like to go for their shots. They don't really want to get bogged down in any safety exchanges. So,
thank you.
Yeah, I think this should be a very interesting match.
First frame. Gary Wilson.
Murphy will be mindful that Wilson has won their two most recent encounters, both of which have been very tight, 4-3, so over the same distance as this.
Yeah, I was thinking if Gary Wilson had scratched his left eye, he would struggle, because you can see that is clearly his dominant eye when playing. You can see the cue down the left side of his face when he addresses the shot. Shaun Murphy more orthodox, cue in the middle of the chin. You'll see when Gary lines up. If he had a problem with his left eye, he would be struggling.
I think the most left-eyed player I ever saw was Graham Miles, who was runner-up in the World Championship in 1974, winner of the Pot Black on more than one occasion. He was even more pronounced than Gary is.
One.
Yeah, nothing wrong with the eyes on that one. Beautifully cued. Just gave it enough power just to get the required action on the cue ball. Beautiful shot. And he was the first name that I ever beat in my career, Graham Miles.
8.
Well, there's symmetry because, as I say, he won at Bellevue in Manchester in April 19, or shall I say, won through to the final at Bellevue in Manchester in April 74, losing out to Ray Reardon in the end. And of course, we're going to be there in Manchester for the Tour Championship 50 years to the month later.
He's going to be bringing reds into play and putting this one to the right corner. Whether he screws up for the blue or just tries to stay in the black. Decided to go up the table. He'll settle for that. He will just brush the blue on its way by. It's worked out perfectly. obviously had played fantastically well in the ITV events last season, Shaun Murphy, winning 2 of them.
Yeah, completed the Players and Tour Championship double. But given the structure of those events, you have no guarantee you can defend them. Have to finish in the top 16 on the one-year list for the Players' Championship. Top 12 for the Tour Championship. And Murphy has work to do.
I
think he'll be okay, but not mathematically certain.
Well, as to be said, he's struck the cue ball beautifully in this break so far. As he usually does, to be fair. One of the best cueists the game's ever seen.
38. $45. $46.
That was actually more difficult than it looked. Okay, the plant was straight, but the angle that Shaun was coming at it to get the potting point was superb.
Stayed down on the shot because he wasn't sure whether the blue was going to go in. I think he's surprised at that pace. It didn't, but it did catch an awful lot of the jaw.
Yeah, well, Gary would love to put the cue ball on this right side cushion.
1.
That's okay. He'd rather have it near the cushion because he wants to go into the bunch of 6 reds off this blue. Played that very quickly, didn't he? Didn't seem to give it much care and attention. Didn't even need to hit it that hard, really, because there's only 6 reds and they're not tightly bunched. Hitting it that hard, you could have easily put reds on the cushion, so didn't play this well at all.
Gary Watson, 6.
And he made a hash of that also.
Very good. You have to keep everything so still when playing those shots, bridging over a ball. Little cannon on the right red of the 4 here. And that should be frame 1 done and dusted.
8. $9. $16. 17. Nineteen.
We've quickly arrived at frame ball. Wilson will not be happy with the start he's made. Murphy will be quite content.
27. 28. $35. Foul. Gary Wilson. 4.
It was a strange error, but it mattered not. Gary Wilson remains seated. He concedes. Shaun Murphy draws first blood. 6 years ago, Shaun Murphy was the champion of champions. He defeated Ronnie O'Sullivan in the final 10-8. How he would love to repeat that achievement. Certainly got the capabilities. He's triply qualified for this tournament. We've talked about the Players' Championship and the Tour Championship. He also won the season-launching Championship League. Beat Mark Williams in the final 3-0. Won 3 groups, not easy to do. And then came good in the title showdown.
One.
Nice long red, but not out of the woods yet. This black is not easy. Usually these are missed thick. That right in the middle of the pocket. Good shot. Didn't really want a little kiss on that red there. Cue ball would have gone further out into the middle of the table, made this red unmissable, but it is missable now.
Nine.
Yeah, nicely played. Just slightly gone too far for the optimum angle, potting the blue and going into the pack. Thinner than he would like. I think he'll still play the shot. Don't take your eye off the pot, Gary.
Wilson, 9.
That is the cardinal error. Pot was just a little bit thinner than he would have liked, and it's so difficult not to take your eyes off the bunch of reds, looking where the cue ball's going.
Not just through snooker, but also his participation on a regular basis in 9-ball. I've got to know Gary well indeed, and he sets himself extremely high standards and becomes really frustrated when he doesn't meet them. If he continues to miss balls, he could get under his own skin.
Yeah, I just think he's just not looked composed out there. I say the shot he played in the previous frame, you know, blew into the bunch. He seemed to just hit at it without much thought, and then that one there didn't.
9.
It was a shot that needed real due care and attention, and just a little bit of lack of composure. As you look at Shaun, and he just looks, well, so relaxed.
And this morning we were chatting, myself
60.
and David Hendon, and he made a really good point, actually, that this is a 12-month qualification process for the Champion of Champions. And Wilson,
70.
who's here as the Scottish Open champion, was one of the first players to book his place in the event. His form right now certainly isn't what it was when he lifted that trophy.
24.
The Stephen Hendry Trophy.
The two reds that are in the pink spot would be a nice cannon here. Would give you a choice of a couple of reds. Missed the cannon. He missed the cannon. Is he on anything?
32.
Looks like end of break. Which, considering how well he's playing, frustrates Shaun. He's looking at this red, the 3 below the cue ball, the one to the left, cutting that into the right corner pocket.
Shaun Murphy.
Yeah, disappointing end to that visit for Shaun Murphy.
Just put a sweet sound, please.
So again, he's potted a good long red, but not got an easy colour to pot after it. Yeah, very good. Deserved that kiss to be nice on the red. Played that very confidently.
Wilson does a lot of things well, one of which is control of side spin. He can manipulate the cue ball superbly at times. Heavy scorer, he's made over 200 centuries in pro competition.
Eleven. 12.
Yeah, and in this company, in this kind of competition, you really should be winning the frame right here.
19.
No excuse for not doing so.
$20.
Not trying to second guess Shaun Murphy, but he was very
25.
disappointed not to have got the cannon on his previous visit. And maybe, just maybe, taking on that really thin cut to the top pocket was ill-advised.
26.
It was as though he felt the need to try and continue. Didn't really get anywhere near the target, and this is the outcome.
$33. $34. $40. $41.
Just a little bit careless.
46.
Obviously, shouldn't have been using the rest for this red. Right in the middle of the pocket.
47.
Because the red was a much thinner pot, getting absolutely perfectly on the next colour was never going to be easy. And the red is, the last red, as you can see, is not in the ideal position. Bringing the cue ball somewhere down near the right cushion is quite a good option because you've got a choice of left middle or left corner. But you can obviously play it for the right corner pocket. And that's pretty good. So
49.
red and a colour to secure this second frame. Yeah, very good. Didn't overhit it. Fully committed
50.
to the pot.
$56. $58.
Didn't really get into the cue ball as desired, but the work, it would appear, is done.
Foul. Gary Wilson, 58. Shaun Murphy, 4.
The 4 penalty points, keeping Murphy interested. He's 31 behind, 25 on, so a couple of snookers needed. And we've already seen one frame in the tournament salvaged from exactly that position. First frame of Barry Hawkins against Rob Milkins in the quarterfinals. Shaun swerves with Spider. Splendid. that might put an end to proceedings. Indirectly.
Three. Seven. Twelve. 18.
Even though it's early on, I think that was a very important frame for Gary Wilson and a really important visit when he made the 58. He's equalised. It's 1-1. This match, you would assume, will be ultra competitive, certainly based on previous matches recently. Welcome back to Bolton, where if you're just joining us, I can tell you Judd Trump is already through in no time, just 48 minutes, to defeat the Women's World Champion Bipad Siri Papon 4-0. Made breaks of 62, 84 and 115.
Gary Wilson to break.
Outscored his opponent 369 to 31. There will not be a whitewash here, though. Get the vibe, this could go deep.
Not sure if he can play this red to right corner and avoid, or rather get round the back of the black back up to the bulk end, so playing the safety shot. Yep, very good.
One.
Well, having cut the red in, a little bit unlucky, the kiss on the brown. I think it's still on, but it's going to have to get everything available to him to reach it.
That's terrific a player he is with the rest. Even Murphy didn't try anything too extravagant there.
Six.
And again, that That was wonderful cueing. Perfectly right side of the blue.
$11. $12.
Things that go bump in the afternoon. Luckily, it wasn't on his backswing. He stepped away.
19. $20. $27. $28.
Coming around to have a second look at this red. That's possibly onto the right corner. He could play a cannon on the middle of the 3, but I think he's decided that that red does go. Perfectly played.
35. $36.
Yeah, he's got choices here. Let's say the 2 reds closest to the black. He could play a cannon on the left-hand side, one of those 2. Not sure if the one above the black goes to the left corner. Yeah, played the cannon. And now a chance to bring another
43.
2 or 3 reds into play from this one. It's a risky one though. He may want to just make sure he's on the black. The position is a little bit risky. Yeah, he was never going to get beautifully on the next colour. And now he's put pressure on this black.
Finishing off last night, John Higgins spotted a ball of, well, not identical ilk, but certainly in the same vicinity to basically tie things up against Ding. It's a pressure ball, this. He knows the rewards, if he knocks it in, could be substantial. Should be substantial.
Shaun Murphy, 40.
Yeah, I knew the importance of it. I think, in hindsight, the last red maybe should have just made sure he was on the black rather than try and play the cannon into the reds. Easy to say after it.
One.
This would be an ideal time to deal a psychological blow to Shaun Murphy. If he could somehow fashion a clearance here from this visit. Certainly not a gimme the way the reds are situated at the moment. When you've got 2
7.
top players, it's often the frames that you steal Frames that you shouldn't have won, but you managed to, that can make the difference in who wins the match.
Eight.
Thought he might have been tempted to play for the black off that red there, just to make this break easier. Look, he's nicely in the blue. I think the pink goes to left corner.
$13. $14.
Looks far more composed now, Gary, than he did in the first few shots. The first frame. Looks so much calmer at the table.
20.
Play for pink to same pocket here. Hopefully land just a little bit high so he can nudge those three reds.
21.
Yeah, that's nice. This should bring everything into the open now.
Bingo. Murphy knows about Wilson's stickability. In the first round of the British Open last year, Wilson was 3-2 down. He made a 137 break to make it 3-all and then won the decider on the black.
Yeah, that last positional shot in the pink was the shot of the break so far, because if he goes straight in the pink or too far, it's pretty tricky to keep the break going. But it was absolutely pinpoint.
28.
And that's not the best shot though, because the angle in the pink is taking the cue ball away from the reds. Up and down the table is possible, but obviously got to miss the green and avoid the right corner pocket. Yeah, that's well played.
$34. $35.
It's amazing when you lose position how it's so difficult to get it back. Sometimes it can take you a good 3 or 4 shots. Say that easy little cannon that he misjudged 2 shots ago. Now put him in a more difficult situation. Played that with loads of left-hand side. Can he get past the pink for this red to right corner?
40.
He can't.
Gary Wilson, 40.
He didn't want to leave the table, of course not, but it could have been in much worse circumstances than this.
Yeah, I think you can Read Shaun's thoughts, because that wasn't played. That snooker behind the black. Gary was trying to pot the red in the right corner, and he knew he was going to be on the black should he get the pot. Didn't play the cue ball where it is now. This is very difficult. I mean, it's difficult enough to hit a red, but to get it safe, he'll be doing very well.
They call him the magician. He'd like to make the black disappear, but it doesn't work like that.
Following the miss. Gary Wilson 4.
Fabulous effort.
Yep.
As the cue ball's coming off the third cushion, he's hoping just to clip that red and send the cue ball up the table.
Yep. Thanks.
How close this is. Take two. A little bit further away that time.
Gary
Definitely
Wilson
be going
4.
back. Obviously, the only thing he doesn't want to do is hit this red full ball, because it just leaves the cue ball on the red that's near the pink to left corner. Now he started off, he was very close, he's getting further away.
Gary Wilson 4.
Wilson making no effort to stand up, just sitting there, nodding away. Get the cue ball back.
Following the miss. Gary Wilson 5. Yep.
Turning out to be expensive, this in itself.
Make sure it's switched off, please.
Remember, Shaun Murphy was 44 to the good, missed a pressure black off its spot and hasn't scored since.
Wow, there's one bit of good news. He's pushed the other red safe. Like to land on the yellow here, Gary Wilson.
1.
Yep, that's a nice angle on the yellow. Okay, he's a bit further away from it than he would like, but he's got a good angle to move the red.
Free.
Judge the contact, not the speed.
Gary Wilson 3.
Well, there's not many players in the game you'd back. I'm not putting a jinx in them. Not many players you'd back rather than Shaun Murphy to pot this kind of ball. Over the years, been one of the best long potters the game's ever seen. But there's obviously pressure on this. He should have the frame won by now. Just such a great long potter. He really is. I'm relieved he potted it though after the build-up.
1.
Yeah, that was a pressure shot for you, and you've retired. Semi-retired.
Yeah.
When he won the Players' Championship in Wolverhampton, his potting from distance had to be seen to be believed. It was just one after another. And it was combined with ridiculously heavy scoring as well. Unbeatable, basically. Wanted the cue ball to go past the green without any contact. He's 6 behind, so he needs down to the pink.
Shaun Murphy, 10.
Unusual that, to hear a few claps when a ball is missed.
Free.
We have a new stat for you this week, positional success. Well, I can tell you, that shot does not qualify.
Gary Wilson, 3.
Yeah, it seems to be when Gary plays with a lot of power, he seems to just lose control a bit of his cue. Gonna go back to the first frame, blue into the pack, just doesn't seem to be as accurate or be able to hold the accuracy when playing with power. That's a nice kiss in the black.
Murphy consulting the scoreboard. He needed all 4 colours. Might not get the chance again.
Nobody wants to win this third frame, and you could hear the frustration from Gary Wilson. Well short. So round the table required. Probably take the cue ball pretty close to the green pocket. Well, he might be going the other way. And I wouldn't have gone this way myself, but he is on the black. He's got a pot.
15.
I always felt it was difficult to get a nice pot in the black into the left corner pocket. Wow, this is tough. Keep your head still.
That was the best shot of the match so far, and maybe the most consequential. Gary Wilson hates losing frames when he has chances. And he had plenty there. It's always good to have the drama of a black ball frame. Shaun Murphy would agree with that right now. I don't think Gary Wilson would.
If I could take a seat, please. The
Contrasting
fourth frame.
emotions about
Shaun
frame
Murphy.
3. And I'll tell you what, I think this one is vitally important. If Murphy were to win this one, Wilson, for me, would be unlikely to win the match. If it went 2-2, I think he'd have a fighting chance. I think Wilson's got to tell himself that he's playing well enough to win this. He's here after the International Championship in Tianjin, China last week, where he only lost 6-5 to Ding in the last 32. Very high quality match. He made a succession of breaks. And Murphy, while he's played okay so far, hasn't been in top gear by any means.
To make contact with a bulk colour there was, well, poor, to say the least. Basically a free shot Shaun had there to get the cue ball tight on that bulk cushion. Yeah, he's just not timing the power shots as well, Gary Wilson, today. A little bit quick in the delivery, a little bit of movement.
1. Eight.
You'd like to finish absolutely dead level with the black here.
9.
Just gone a couple inches too far. The two reds at the bottom of the pack. You'd love to have played firm into the left-hand side, one of those reds there. Can't do it now.
Foul. Shaun Murphy
Almost
9.
spotted the black along the cushion into the right corner.
Gary Wilson 7.
You're right, Stephen. That came very close to being a shot that would be shown for many a year.
One.
Couple of choices here. Brown to the right corner, or he could play for yellow right middle and screw the cue ball in and out of bulk. Yeah, nice shot. Played that well.
5.
Important visit to the table in this match for Gary Wilson, you feel, because he was just starting to lose a bit of control, I think. You know, banged his cue and he missed the brown in the previous frame and just looked like composure had left him again. So this is a big visit. And again, I'm afraid it's
Gary
the power
Wilson.
shots that are letting him down.
6.
He's just not timing them at all. Kind of throwing his cue at it a little bit.
And that's what he wanted.
1.
But for himself, not for Murphy.
Snooker's such a psychological sport at the top level, so I mentioned that Gary Wilson needed a good visit to sort of control his emotions and get back into the match.
7.
And the other side of the coin, Shaun Murphy knows his opponent's sort of at it at the moment, and you really want to keep the foot down, keep the pressure on. So it's as important a visit for Shaun, but for a different way.
8.
It seemed to me, Stephen, when you were at the top of the game, that when you knew your opponent was vulnerable, you seemed to up your game and just put the boot in, as it were.
Absolutely. You've got to, and all the top players do, you can sense when your opponent's under pressure and they've lost composure. And you look at Gary in the background there, he's sat there shaking his head.
14.
Hey, Shaun can't see that, but you do, and it's about, you know, keeping the foot down.
Twenty. 21.
in top sport, he's talking about boxing. And he said, oh, the guy said, I hope someone shuts this guy up. I said, I just want the guy to get him to sleep. And he thought, that was a bit
28. $29.
That's brilliant. Even if you don't agree with him, you want to. Yeah, I did his thing, his podcast, and he's very knowledgeable about it. He does his research well and knows what he's talking about. He's not frightened either, which I want.
36. No. 37.
Yeah, when he's been in amongst the balls, Shaun, he really
44.
has looked composed.
$45.
Just red and a colour needed.
$52.
He's done what he had to do. Keep Wilson in his chair, dwelling on those mistakes.
Yeah, lovely. He's taken these beautifully.
60. $67. 68.
Murphy's century total so far this season, even though he's won a ranking event, a little down on last season. He's only made 13, which for him is quite a low figure at this stage of the campaign.
$80. 82. 85. 89. 94. 100.
That's how to be ruthless. That's how to press home an advantage. In this case, Murphy's advantage is now 3-1. One more frame needed for a place in the quarterfinals. This afternoon, earlier on, Judd Trump defeated Bipat, the women's world champion, 4-0. Shaun Murphy could be in for a comfortable victory here as well. Gary Wilson has to eradicate the mistakes to stand any chance of turning this around.
Yeah, I think if you're Gary Wilson, I mean, you've had chances. I mean, even in the first frame, you had a chance to get back into it. So it's not as if he'd been completely frozen out. He's just got to get that composure back that he had in that second frame. He made that lovely break. But left one of these reds out again. Just can't afford to do that against Shaun Murphy. If you are going to stick the red out, you've got to get the cue ball tight in the baulk cushion. In the last few years, the break-off has become such an important shot. Most of the players are such good long potters.
4.
You can see now, straight away off the break-off, Shaun Murphy's got a chance to win this match right here and now.
Five. Well.
Just didn't play that little cannon with enough pace there. Just went to cue ball to push through an inch or so. Leave that red to right corner.
13.
And that's a lovely pot to regain the situation. Great view there of how accurate you need to be in those little pockets.
$20. $21.
An even more promising opportunity now. We could be heading for a mouth-watering conclusion to the day. Murphy-Trump is always one of those encounters you look forward to watching. But he's not there yet. These best of sevens can turn really quickly.
27.
Well, after this shot, I think Shaun will be going into the bunch, but he just had a look at the red that's on the pink spot and the red below
28.
it. Whether that was going to go in off the other red and go near to the right corner pocket. Well, that's not gone to plan, has it?
33.
In the second frame, he made 32, surrendered position, and played what was, I thought, a risky shot. Shouldn't do that here. Shouldn't allow disappointment about loss of position to seep into the shot selection process.
Yeah, he's completely got control of this match at the moment, both on the scoreboard and psychologically. The opponent's not in the best place at the moment. So, yeah, you don't want to let that back in cheaply.
Shaun Murphy, 33.
Well, it took a while to think about a good safety. Didn't really want to take a red off the cushion, and in the end, he's played a very poor safety shot. Chance here for Gary Wilson. Can he cue this smoothly?
One.
That could be the beginning of the end. He delivers the cue with such authority, so straight.
One. Rumble. Five. Six. $13. Shaun
Well,
Murphy.
I don't think it was ever in,
13.
but it certainly seemed to sort of tug to the left a little bit. That red on the way to the pocket. And watch as soon as he hits it, it's not in, but yeah, it just seemed to go up a little bit.
In the second match yesterday afternoon, look what happened. Zhang Anda scored only 10 points in the first 3 frames against Ding Junhui. He fell well behind in the next 2, but he somehow salvaged both of them. Ended up, he was only 1 ball from victory before Ding won 4-3 on the black. That's the kind of stubbornness that Wilson has to display.
Choice of red side, a corner pocket for Shaun. Seems to have set his mind on this one to left corner.
That's. He defeats Gary Wilson by 4 frames to 1. Next on the agenda for the Magician, it is the ace in the pack.